What I discovered is that as I said yes to serving God with small things, he gave me more opportunities to do a little bit bigger thing. The more God used me, the more the fire was fueled in me to grow strong in Jesus, to learn about God's word and to let him use me more and more. I eventually thought, maybe I could spend my whole life helping other people understand how to walk with Jesus. So at that point, my pastor, I was going to Broome Community College right here. He says, okay, you've done 2 years of school there. You should check out this school called Asbury College. So I transferred down to Asbury. This is a picture of my daughter, my oldest, Cassie, in front of one of the buildings. That's Hughes Auditorium, where we would have chapel. This was a really great Christian school in a tiny little town of Wilmore, Kentucky. This is not the kind of place you drive through. It's kind of like on a dead-end road. But there's this great little school, and across from what's now Asbury University, there was Asbury Theological Seminary. So these two institutions were where people were trained to, get their undergrad and then go and get their master's or their doctorate and be trained for all kinds of work, Christian service, okay? So you could imagine that with all of these highly trained people in this tiny little town, in church on Sunday, the 21-year-old guy and his brand new wife, that's where Kelsey and I lived when we were first married, we were sitting next to Dr. So-and-so, and there would be world-renowned authorities on different sections of the Bible, and this would be the person who got up in church and talked for this part of the service and that part of the service. And when a class was offered, it was offered by Dr. What's-His-Face, not his actual name. And so here I am, this guy who just loves Jesus, but I haven't gotten a lot of experience or training yet. And I'm in this church and I'm thinking, Lord, you've called me to serve you. So I started to try to volunteer in the church. And Kelsey and I would say to the pastor, how could we help? How could we be a part of what God's doing here? And we tried this and we tried that, and after 6 months of trying to serve Jesus in his church, we were allowed to bring orange juice and donuts to a Sunday school class. And we did. You know why? Because they needed orange juice and donuts. But I was disappointed. I was thinking, God, I think I've got more to offer than that. So I kept on bugging the pastor. What can I do? What can I do? Finally, you know what he told me? Talk to Ray. So I talked to Ray. And Ray said, you want to serve God? I said, you bet. He said, show up here Saturday morning. So I did. And Ray handed me a pick and a shovel. And he said, you see this corner of the church here? We've got a drainage problem. I want you to dig a ditch from that corner of the church to that creek over there. I'll see you in a few hours. I could have said, this isn't what God called me to do. This isn't preaching or teaching. I don't see how this is going to help me make disciples. The only person I'm leading by digging this ditch is myself. Oh. God ever humble you a little bit? You ever need God to do a work in you before you were prepared to do something else? There are no insignificant jobs in God's eyes. Colossians chapter 3, verse 23 says this, whatever you do, whatever assignment that God gives you, if it's to love somebody who will never love you back, if it's to do a small kindness at the place you work to the person who will never show you kindness, if it is to take on a menial task and do it to the glory of God, Work at it with all your heart. Because you know why? You're working for the Lord, not for human masters. If you say yes today to intentionally investing your time, talents, and resources in the Lord's work, God will grow you. You may live in kind of like a poverty mindset where you think, like, if I give, it's gone. But when you serve the God of resurrection, who actually, achieved a victory through death and resurrection, then when you give, God grows something. God is so wise and his plan is so good. One of the great things about saying yes to actually doing something in ministry is that it's great motivation for developing your own spiritual growth. God did not intend for you to be a lake in which you're just poured into, and you eventually become stagnant. God created you to be a river in which you are giving away. There's a flow of God's goodness and grace and mercy that is coming to you, through you, into the lives of other people.